Nepal has long been branded and is known as a remote and pristine destination. In many destinations across Nepal, development efforts have been limited until recently. Paved roads and improved connectivity can be a blessing to many locals who would have had to walk days to get access to even the most basic services. But concerns are starting to emerge. Is development in this form compatible with the image of Nepal we have long been promoting? Are expectations that destinations in Nepal will continue to be remote fair? What should development efforts ideally look like in remote, pristine destinations? Let's find out.
Several concerns. The first concern is that the definition of development in Nepal has been building highways, not in a technically specialist way, but by local under-trained contractors. And what they tend to do is they build roads that are not secure. They build roads that are not engineering, that are not sound from an engineering point of view, right? So that leads to landslides, floods, and so forth, as has been the case in Nepal, especially this monsoon and also in the past rainy season. So that's one area of concern. The second area of concern is that the voices of the local people are missing from the development discourse. Actually, usually somebody at the center decides what to do in place X, and that things get done through contractors. Local people see it as development, but it's the kind of development that is all full of concrete, full of sort of like contractor led, people coming from outside doing the work and then leaving the place. So there is hardly any benefit for the local people. They don't see what it is for. So the local voices are very much missing. And the third thing is, development is defined in terms of engineering infrastructure rather than, nutritional gains, rather than educational gains, rather than, more participation and representation of women in the decision-making process, rather than, providing a social security or a pension to the elderly, people living longer, healthier lives with a nearby health clinic in place, that sort of thing. So that idea of development is very much missing. It's more like, let's build a highway from X to Y so that the highway runs through the off forest, right? And then, people can do mountain biking or roller skating or, or drive from A to B. And that is development as opposed to what's in the area. The first thing to take into account is the livelihood. You know, will the local people have access to cash, have access to credit, to upgrade their own lifestyle, to eat better food, to wear better clothes, to send their children to school, to make sure that children have access to nutrition, that sort of thing, basically. So livelihood is a big issue. The second thing is culture, local culture, local customs, rituals, religion, cultural festivals, and so forth. Are there ways that the fast pace of development, does that take into account of local culture is very, very important. And third is the voices in the decision making process. That is, are local people consulted? Local people, not only the local elites, but also the local Dalits, local women's groups, so on and so forth. So local media, local civil society institutions, into account everybody's voices. It's slow and deliberative process, but that yields a lot of fruit down the road because the outcome is likely to be better because everyone's inputs are taken into consideration. Right now, what is happening in Nepal is that the center makes the decision. Decisions are top down, and whatever decisions that the center makes, those decisions are seen as development decisions, which are not necessarily for the benefit of the local people in terms of they're getting cash or they're getting, development dividends. It's more like, driven from the top, for the top, by the top, and, and the money for the top. So that sort of development isn't really working, but we have to learn from other part of the world, especially from Bhutan. Actually, in Bhutan, local people are very much, they are the local entrepreneurs, local stakeholders in the tourism economy. They get their revenue from tourism, very high-end tourism that the government shares with them, and the government puts down the infrastructure, which helps them raise productivity, increase livelihood gains, and so forth. So, A, Nepal can learn from other countries. B, Nepal can also offer to other countries by saying, the entire Karnali region, for example, is as beautiful as Bhutan or Ladakh, or for that matter, any other highland places around the world. And that area is still very much underdeveloped, so to speak, underdeveloped in terms of highways, in terms of, electrical poles, that sort of stuff. But there is a way to develop that place by keeping the natural beauty intact in place and making sure that nature, sustainability, local customs, local livelihood gains, they exist in sync with the local aspirations for development, which is, again, I define development not only in terms of infrastructure, basic infrastructure, but that raises productivity, but also in terms of, people eating good, better food, nutritious food, children going to school, and, people's health getting better, people living longer, healthier, and so forth. So these are also some of the development gains we have to look into account.
Yes. Local people, I think, should be very much closely involved in any developments in their areas. I think all the dangers, of course, arise of those that want to benefit for themselves. Village politics can be unbelievable. I'm a very strong believer that it should be driven by the local people, even to the local government trying to discourage outsiders coming in and trying to take over. Yeah, and particularly the women, because when we're talking about the sort of tourism we're talking about here, authenticity, homestays, this sort of thing, I think the real key is having the women leading this, because more likely to put the community first rather than trying to take advantage for themselves. So this is where, again, having them involved in development does actually help, I think, a huge amount to control the more negative aspects. It's managing the expectations of what the actual current situation is, which is essential. So that's where the travel agent has an important role to dispel some of the myths of the place, even if it seems that it's going against a little bit against the idea of, oh, this wonderful pristine place that everyone will want to go to. They need to give a more realistic view of the place. It's okay, Upper Mustang's a special case, but I think all over Nepal now, it's very difficult to find anywhere where there aren't changes going on. And I think people need to understand that. But at the same time, Nepal's still got so much which is really authentic. I mean, the last time when I was in Nepal, I stayed in many places, and even though there were roads nearby and so on, it was like another world. I think, again, it's down to the information that is provided to people, so that they don't have these expectations that they're going to be going into a place which is still medieval and still untouched, because I don't think there are very many places like that left on this planet.
The travelers and visitors can first, start with respect for the place. The place has been around for ages, for centuries and centuries. So there is a natural reverence that the place commands. So it's not a place to go and spoil, so to speak, or to violate it in any way. So the reverence is very much important. So basically, tourists, not only to click the pictures of the Himalayas and the forest and so forth, having, camping experiences and all that, but also to take genuine interest in the people who live there, actually genuine interest in terms of, their aspirations, their hopes. And I think many people have done it in the past, many tourists on a one-on-one basis, but it's not a widespread practice, so to speak. I think people come to Nepal to conquer, so to speak, to climb atop a hill or a mountain, to go from place A to place B, and to say that I did Annapurna base camp in so many days, so therefore I'm very fit. People try to give those sort of signals. Those are all nice on one level, but the nicer would be taking genuine interest in the people, and then publicizing their day-to-day life to other people around the world, and making sure that other visitors find the places intriguing enough to make a visit and to witness the culture, the livelihood issues, the development issues firsthand from around the world. So more visitors coming in would definitely be in everyone's favor.
Visitors need to be more aware of what is meant by authentic travel in order to get the best authentic experience. It's not just from the supplier's side, it's from the actual traveler's side too. So they need to be people that take a genuine interest in others, and they need to be interested in their culture, eating where the locals eat, making friends with locals. It usually means that they have probably done a bit of homework on the customs, maybe learned a few phrases. But the key to this is that they must remember then that they're not actually so different from the people they're visiting, because we're all human beings, and actually we've got far more in common than we often realize. I mean, we all love, laugh, cry, sleep, hope. We want better lives.
It turns out it is possible to balance authenticity and development.